And now, the best 60-ish seconds of your week.
Last week we talked about Joe Biden referring to the new Georgia election reforms as quote-unquote sick, and suggested that Major League Baseball might try to move the All-Star game in order to punish the Georgia legislature and the people of Georgia. And you know what? They did. You know, it's really interesting. These folks that have been castigating the state of Georgia for its election reforms probably have not read the bill, which became law, because the assertions they're making are almost categorically, fundamentally untrue. Even the Washington Post, for crying out loud, gave Biden 4 Pinocchios for his misrepresentations about what the law actually said. And the cancel culture moves on. Now Major League Baseball takes its All-Star game out of Atlanta, hurting the citizens there, a largely minority population, almost half the population non-white, and moves it to Denver, Colorado, where the vast majority of citizens are white. How does that work? And Colorado has much more restrictive voting than Georgia does. Meanwhile, the state of Delaware, where Joe Biden comes from, hasn't got the same opportunities to vote that Georgia does, nor does New York State, where Major League Baseball's headquartered. And you know what they're really upset about? Voter identification. We've talked about that before. You can't get on a plane, train, or rent an automobile in this country without having a picture identification. You can't pick up tickets at the will call window of a major league ballpark without a photo ID. You can't get into the corporate headquarters of Coca-Cola, who's joined in this parade, without a photo ID. And yet they've got their bowels all in a tizzy over the fact that Georgia has voter ID laws. Meanwhile, Major League Baseball has a deal with a company with very, very close ties to the Chinese Communist Party. Think about that. Slave labor employed, dissidents crushed, and the moral squad at Major League Baseball has its bowels in a tizzy over voter identification laws. We really have lost our collective minds, it seems. And various other companies, Coca-Cola, Delta Airlines, all of whom require photo IDs, are chiming in as well. But people are fighting back. And, you know, it's tough for me as a sports enthusiast, ex-jock, a guy who now loves spectator sports, to be saying, I'm not going to be watching Major League Baseball after I've given up on the NBA and most of the NFL. I still cheat every once in a while in the NFL boycott, like maybe once a week on Sunday afternoons, but who's counting? The fact of the matter is, so many of us simply want to enjoy sports without being lectured to, and especially without being lectured to by the American far left. But hypocrisy has become the word of the day to describe these folks. Some folks were asking for the commissioner of Major League Baseball to give up his membership at Augusta National, which happens to be in the state of Georgia. Don't hold your breath waiting for that to happen. And Joe Biden's son, Hunter, publishes his book with a televised interview, which reminded me of the O.J. Simpson screed, "If I Did It." He says, in effect, yeah, that might very well be my laptop that was down at that fix-it shop in Delaware, while during the campaign, his father and others were saying it was part of a Russian hoax. It's just you can't make this stuff up. Credibility has been stretched far beyond where any believability still rests. And 2 quick items. First of all, Joe Biden once again using his little pen to issue executive orders, seriously infringing upon American Second Amendment rights. Hopefully the courts will shut that down, but we all need to be looking at the fact that the administration is way out of whack with these executive orders. Executive orders simply shouldn't be the way things are governed. Congress has to reassert itself, reestablish its constitutional authority, and get back to regular order. And in my home state of Pennsylvania, a group of Republican women this week introduced a fairness in sports bill to essentially ban men from competing in women's sports. That seems to make pretty common sense to me, but our governor, Tom Wolf, who was famous for his lockdowns and shutdowns and taking people out of hospitals and moving them into nursing homes where sadly many of them passed away, says he'll veto the bill if it passes. It's likely to pass because most people recognize it as common sense. But Tom Wolf, governor of Pennsylvania, judged by an independent entity as the most liberal governor in America, and you know that takes some doing with the competition that's involved, says once again he'll veto things. And finally, to the Baylor Bears, congratulations, the first team from Texas in a long while, and only the second one ever, to win the NCAA championship. They really were the best team this year, and I just have to add a footnote, my beloved Villanova Wildcats gave them the toughest game of the entire tournament. And for that is the best 60-ish seconds of your week.